How to make real 3D renders in Minecraft using Blender. Hello everybody and welcome to OMGcraft. I'm your host, OMG Chad. Something that is absolutely fascinating to me and that I've actually worked hard in order to learn is how to make 3D renders in Minecraft using a free program called Blender. These renders look way better than normal screenshots in Minecraft and can allow you to manipulate the characters in ways that you can't normally manipulate a normal Minecraft character, like, let's say, elbows and knees. And of course you can pose them in any way you want, and even some rigs or models have eyeballs and mouths that you can of course manipulate as well. Now, getting into this topic is it's just a very deep topic. There's so much to cover, and normally these programs are run by people who take college courses in order to run them. So we're going to do a simplified version just in order to get an avatar, a 3D rendered avatar that you could use anywhere, basically. And do note that Blender can be finicky. It's an open source program, so I've had issues where on one computer it acts one way and on another computer it acts a completely different way. So I know that there are going to be some frustrations with the program that we're going to be using. I don't know how to fix that, and I've been avoided doing an episode on this topic because it can be so confusing. So if you run into any issues while going through this tutorial, Google is your friend. Just, why is Blender blank? Why are random things showing up when I do this? Or how do I make this window disappear? And that sort of thing. So without further ado, let's jump into the tutorial.
So first step is that you are going to need to download Blender. Blender.org is the place that you are going to do that. So get a new version. I suggest getting this installer and then whatever bit that your computer is, 64 or 32. Once you have that, then you're going to need a rig. And a rig, you could make it yourself, but it's way too difficult. A rig will allow you to place stuff onto, or basically it means that you don't have to actually create models for you to work with. A really good rig will do all of this for you and have this already made, and then you can just manipulate a model that someone else has already made. And I suggest this one. It's also very simply going to be the first thing if you Google Minecraft rig. It shows up. It's just fantastic. rhymedenisi.net. Very good. Now, what I like the cycles render. These are two different types of engines, internal versus cycles. I prefer cycles because it does a little bit of GPU stuff a little bit differently, and I really enjoy it. You can choose either, but I would prefer cycles. So go ahead and install Blender by opening that up and going through this process to install it. And then also go ahead and find a place to unzip this file right here so that you can have access to that. Now go ahead and open up Blender itself. So this is Blender. You'll see something very similar to this when you open it up. You can see this little splash page. You can click behind it and that goes away. You're given a little plane right here, a little box to play with. Now let's talk about quickly how you navigate through Blender. First off, you'll notice that clicking doesn't do a whole lot. If you click and drag, a lot of times it won't work quite as well as you had hoped. If you happen to land directly on, like I'm clicking just these arrows right here, then it'll work a little bit better. What's funny is right-clicking tends to actually work a lot better than actually clicking forward. So right-clicking actually does a lot. If you want to move your plane around, you'll need to have a middle mouse button. And if you don't have that, you can go into your user settings And where are those? There you are, user preferences. And there is a way to add a mouse, like as if that you had a middle mouse button. I forget where that's at. Here we go. Under Input, emulate 3-button mouse if you happen to be on a laptop without a 3-button mouse. But a 3-button mouse really helps. When clicking that down, you can see that I can rotate the whole scene around. You can also use your zoom, your scroll wheel to zoom in. And if you hold down Shift and do this, it will sort of pan. It will truck the camera around just like this. So by using all of these various different methods, you can kind of get a better idea of what you're looking at. So when we start off here, you'll notice that there are 3 things in the world. There is a light. That's this right here, that little thing right there. Sorry. Move that cursor out of there, the 3D cursor out of there. That's a light. We're going to go ahead and delete that. You can do that by hitting either the delete key, or you can, here, let's go ahead and select this, or you can hit X and it will also delete. You have to hit Enter in order to confirm that. This thing that's moving around, that is your, whenever you click, that's your 3D cursor. So it'll do things like if you have it clicked down and then you want to bring something into the world, then it will come in right where that is selected. So let's look at the files that we downloaded and what they are. You can go ahead and click Open and navigate to the unzip thing that you had brought in before, that you had downloaded before. And you'll notice that there's a few different options. We are going to focus on very simple things this go around. So we're going to focus on the simple rig, and you can go ahead and hit Open, and you can kind of see what this is. It's Steve standing on a few blocks with some clouds behind him, a moon over there, and a sun over there. So this is kind of a nice starting point if you wanted something like this. We're actually not going to work within this file. What we want to do is create a new file and bring in elements from this to work with. That way we don't accidentally overwrite this file and can't get back to it later. So we're going to do File, New, whoops, and there we go. So we're going to reload. We get this same thing. We can delete those options. So we're going to go ahead and delete that and delete that. There we go. Now, before we get started with this new thing, there's a few things that we want to change around. First is that this is not going to be a Blender render. This is going to be a Cycles render because that's what I ended up downloading. Also, the render device I can change from CPU to GPU. That way it will be a lot faster because I have a better graphics card. G is for graphics card. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. Central. So C stands for Central. G stands for Graphical Processing Unit. Anyway, also go into those user preferences right here underneath File. And one of the things that you are definitely going to want to change is underneath the system, this Emit Maps, you're going to want to select that. If we don't have that selected, then wait a second. Sorry, I misspoke. You're going to want to make sure that that is unselected. You can see right here, this Steve is very, very fuzzy. But if you unselect it, then he becomes nice and crisp. Because what this is doing is blending textures that are not large enough for this this space, and you do not want that selected. Apparently, I had already selected that. I thought that this was a clean install, but it saved some stuff. So this guy I'm going to delete and show exactly how I brought him in. Get out of here. Now that we have the canvas with nothing on it and some of our user preferences set, we're going to go ahead and add something into this scene. And what we're going to do is append the scene, which will basically open something, but it'll open it in what we're already working with. So inside of this this file, the Cycles render area, you're going to go to Simple Rig, and you'll see all these different files. What you want is Group and Character, and go ahead and append this into Library. If for some reason your Steve is not, he's basically not textured, what you're going to want to do is down here, there is a viewpoint shading. He probably is set to solid. You're going to want to set that to textured. By the way, little thing about Blender is you can constantly add as many views and tool panes as you want. So it can kind of become a little bit confusing. If you grab any of these corners in here, you can see that I could drag this in. This is exactly what I'm kind of working with over here, but I could change it to be info. I could change it to be my logic something. I could change it to be my timeline. My timeline is actually already down here. I could change it to be my Python console. I mean, just absolutely anything that you want it to be. File browser, there you go. And so if you don't want this anymore, or you accidentally open one up, all you have to do is grab the corner and drag it over, and you'll see this arrow, and that means it's going to get rid of it. So here we go. We have our Minecraft character. Now, the first thing that people are going to most likely want to do is they're going to want to change the skin. So go ahead and right click on your character, and you can see that we have this Steve selected. And then you're going to want to go over to the materials area, which is it's that nice little orb right there. And you can see that we have this char 1 selected, and over here the color is set to skin. What you're going to first have to do is write this file to where it is stored. So you're going to say write file to current directory. There you go. It always gives me an error when doing this, but this is the step that I have to do in order to get to this, which is to open the image and to change the image, which is what we're going to want to do. So now that we've written it, we're able to actually click this open image again, which will open a new image for us. So let's go ahead and click this and navigate to wherever your skin is located. This one, omgchad.png, is my skin, and we're going to click open image. Now you can see something is a little bit off with this. Just a little, it doesn't look quite right, does it? So what we're going to want to do is change just one tab over. You'll see this little triangle. And this is the object data. And we're going to want to change inside of the UV maps from old 1.8 skins to 1.8 plus skin, and you can see that he pops in. Now I'm going to skip ahead and show you something that when I render this, well, it didn't actually render what we wanted. And that's because this little camera icon right here is still on the old version. This is what we are seeing when we're editing, but the camera is what will render. So we're going to have to click the other one so that it will actually render what we are looking at. Now, you may also notice that if we go ahead and I'm just skipping ahead to where we're going to get to actually rendering things in a bit. But when I render it, there's this purple box around my head. And that is because there is actually a head layer right here. And this hasn't been changed at all. It doesn't have a texture. Now, for me, I don't have a hat layer, and so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that box. And there we go. So now I don't have to worry about that. Finally, let's go ahead and get to moving this guy around. So you can see that when I right click on him, first I kind of select the outside of him, and when I right click again, I'll select the bones inside of him. Now we're going to want to manipulate this guy, and currently I can't quite actually grab these bones in order to manipulate them. So we're going to want to set that to be active. And the way that we do that is we reach over here, and you can see that in this, which is the outliner, you have this little guy right here. You're going to click that, and now all of the bones become individually selectable, just like this. Now you're going to want to rotate these in a fashion so that he can actually do things. And all you do is hit R on your keyboard, and now you can rotate his arm around. But as you can see, it's kind of it's rotating in a really weird and unnatural way. You can use the keys Z, X, and Y to lock these rotations to those axes. So the Z-axis, the X-axis, and the Y-axis right here. So after you hit R, you can hit, and all you have to do is type this once. You don't have to like hold it down or anything like that. So all you have to do is hit it once, and then once you like how it is moved, click with your left click, and then it will take it. So we're gonna rotate again. This time I'm gonna rotate it forward. There we go, and click just like that. We can do this with all of the other little bones. So if I hit R, rotate, he can kind of dance like crazy. If I choose X, here we go. Let's have him looking up just a bit. And then also this, we're going to rotate, and we're going to have him look even up just even more. Let's also rotate that again. And this time I would like to rotate it. There we go. Have him looking that way. Perfect. This, instead of selecting the upper arm, I'm going to select the lower arm. We're going to rotate that. I'm going to rotate that on the X-axis, and so kind of give him a little bit of a, there we go. I like how he's kind of bending that. Now we'll grab the shoulder and rotate that again on the X-axis. There we go. And you can keep on rotating just a bit. And I want this on the Y. There we go. Out just a bit. And this one, rotate R. I'm hitting R, I hit Y, rotate that out, R, let's do X, rotate that out a bit, click, and there we go. So we've posed my character just a little bit. You can see that he's kind of posing all crazy like. I really like it. I think it's fantastic. And now we would want to do a render of this. So if I zoomed in and moved things all around, and then did a render key, one thing that you would notice is that he's very, very dark. So we do need to add some light into this situation. By the way, if you hit Shift-C, everything will reset, and also your 3D cursor will be placed in the middle of the area. Now we want to bring in a new object. You do that by holding down Shift-A, and that will add something into the world. And we're going to want to add just a plane, and you can see underneath him that was created. Now, in order to move something around, it is actually G. G will help move this around, and you can use what we used before with rotate. So we could do X and make it rotate only on the X-axis, or sorry, move only on the X-axis. Z to only move up and down, and Y, to move back and forth. So let's move this around. We're going to move it a little bit in front of him, and we're also going to move our camera so we can see this a little bit better. I'm going to rotate this up just a bit, and just like that. And perfect. And then I'm going to move it up as well, which I think is there we go. Move it up like so. Now what we're going to want to do is make this emit light. And the way that we're going to do that is by adding a new texture onto it. And the surface, instead of diffuse, is going to be emission. And we can change the color if we want. And we are also going to bring up the strength of this emission to something a little bit larger. So let's just say 20. Just go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to kind of move around and check. And by the way, I'm hitting Shift-Z anytime that I am checking. I'm checking a render here. And I can tone down the brightness, move it around. Looks like it looks like about 7 is going to be pretty good. 7 or 8. That looks really good. And then you hit Shift-Z again to bump out of that. So now we have a light source. We are looking really, really, really good. Now we are going to want to move our camera for our render, because if we actually rendered what we have, it looks a little bit like this. And that is because, if you remember, our camera is still here in the scene, sitting right there. And you can actually see the camera's perspective by hitting the 0 key on your numpad if you actually have a separate numpad. And the way to move this camera around is to hit in on your keyboard. And then you can see, this is all sorts of different movement location stuff. Lock camera to view. And now you can use all of the various things that you used before to zoom this around. move this around and get a better view of this scene. And I kind of wanted like a selfie almost, where my character was kind of looking like this. There we go. Whoops. And perfect. And that's kind of how I want him to look. And that also gets our light source out of the way so that we don't accidentally see the light source. Now that we're done with that, we can unlock the camera. I can hit there we go, hit 0 again, and now I am no longer in that view, and I can zoom out and pan around like I normally do. Now, if we actually want to render this, let's first go over to this little camera icon, and we can see some of our render settings. First is our resolution, and right now it's set to 1920 by 1080, but this 50% is 50% of whatever we have selected. So I actually want to bring that up to 100%, so it does exactly as much as I have in here. 50% would only do half, so it would do what is that, 540 by whatever 1920 is divided by 2. Next is something that I think a lot of you are going to ask about. By the way, you hit F12 whenever you want to see what your render is going to look like. So I just went ahead and hit F12 right now to get a nice view of what this is going to save as. And you can see that it is rendering the gray background that we saw in our edit area. And I don't really want this gray background. You can hit escape to get out of that. And what you have to do is go down to the film tab down here and choose transparent. And now when we render it, the edges and the scene behind him will be this checkerboard, so it will be a transparent image, so that if you wanted to add your own background into it, you could. And so I think a lot of people are going to want to do that instead. So those are basically the things that we have to do, which is set the resolution, make sure that the background is transparent, and then of course you can change all sorts of other different things. You can change it to black and white, RGB, RGBA. A stands for alpha, which is the transparent background which you want. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here, but it doesn't really matter nearly as much. So once you're happy with everything and you've moved everything around and you've added your light sources, and by the way, you can add extra light sources if you wanted maybe some sort of red light source kind of bouncing in from the side or anything like that. You could add all of that, of course. Then you finally have your render. You hit F3. Of course, whenever you're saving an image, F3 is the default. Of course, you want to save it to F3, duh. And then you can title it whatever you want. So we're going to name this OMGcraft render, and then hit enter and hit save as image. And there we go. And you can see that this is in Photoshop right here. And it has a transparent background. I'm going to bring in another image in here and just set it behind it, so you can kind of see that my character is just floating there, which means that we could do whatever we want with him, which is just great. I mean, this is exactly what I need whenever you are making any type of icon or really anything. Then you have a way to actually change that around and use a transparent background just for that. I think this is a great icon, right? I mean, we just made it here for us, but 3D rendered Minecraft characters from Blender. All software is free. And everything we showed off is free. Pretty cool. I know this was a longer video than normal. I hope that it has tons of information jam-packed in there for you to get started. This is really just a starting point for you
in your Blender experiences. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that it was useful. Leave comments down below letting me know your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for future videos. YouTube.com/OMGcraft, of course, is our YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time on OMGcraft. Bye.